Benghazi, Libya. Reuters, a Libyan Islamist military commander who helped defend Benghazi against Muammar Gaddafi's forces has called on the interim cabinet to resign because they are remnants of the old regime. In an early sign of divisions among the victors in Libya's 6-month civil war, Ismail al-Salabi also took a swipe at secular groups he said were trying to give Islamists a bad name and create political strife that would only benefit Gaddafi. Salabi leads the February 17th Brigade, which many Libyans credit with the successful last-ditch defense of Benghazi, where the uprising began on that date. Only later did NATO air power tip the balance in favor of the largely untrained rebel forces. The role of the executive committee is no longer required because they are remnants of the old regime. They should all resign, starting from the head of the pyramid all the way down, Salabi told Reuters in the eastern city. He was referring to the National Transitional Council's de facto cabinet, which is headed by Mahmoud Jibril, who once headed Libya's state economic think tank under Gaddafi. The 40-member NTC is a disparate mix of former officials in the Gaddafi administration, businessmen, academics, lawyers, and exiles. Salabi commands at least 3,000 fighters and reports to the interim Interior Ministry in Tripoli, according to an NTC spokesman. He accompanied NTC Chairman Mustafa Abdel-Jalil to a NATO meeting in Doha last month and said he fully supports him. Abdel-Jalil resigned as Gaddafi's justice minister after violence was used against the protests that erupted on February 17th. Salabi once fought in Afghanistan, but denies any links to Islamist groups outside Libya, such as the Taliban and al-Qaeda. After the anti-Gaddafi revolt, his forces received arms from the Gulf Arab state of Qatar. Without naming anyone, Salabi criticized those he said were trying to cast Libyan Islamist leaders as extremists. There are secularists who have their own private agenda and would like to portray us as extremists to alienate us from the international community and cause the division that will only serve the tyrant, he said, referring to Gaddafi. Sometimes you wonder and ask, who are they serving? Unfrozen assets. Salabi said he planned to send a memo to the NTC and its foreign allies to warn them to ensure that Libyan assets abroad, frozen to punish Gaddafi and now being released to the NTC, do not come back under control of the same officials who once handled them for Gaddafi. Lately, the NTC Executive Committee has done nothing but talk about unfreezing the assets, he said. These were in the names of individuals in the old regime, so if you unfreeze the assets, you unfreeze them in their favor. They belong to the Libyan people. Big powers agreed in Paris last week to unfreeze $433.7608 billion in Libyan assets once controlled by Gaddafi or his aides. Libya's total foreign assets are estimated at some $4,915.94